a translation. I shared it on the chat. I also shared it on WhatsApp. So please look at that. It's called The Spiritual Song Piercing the Heart. So this is a song, a teaching that Jigten Sumgun gave. If you look at the words of this song, you'll see that it is not exactly the words of Jigten Sumgun, in that there's a reference to Jigten Sumgun in this song. So it's probably one of his close disciples, maybe Sherab Chungme, kind of repeating this song and then adding, a line. So we'll see. You'll see what I mean. So it begins with homage to the sublime gurus. Homage to the sublime gurus. So this is very typical, of course. I'm sure you all know that to begin all these teachings, all these composition, first with paying homage to the gurus. So then he says, first cultivate bodhicitta. So this is follows closely the fivefold Mahamudra structure. So first begin by cultivating, by generating bodhicitta. So as you all know already, I hope at this point, whenever we say bodhicitta, you could kind of ask, so is it relative bodhicitta, absolute bodhicitta, or generally bodhicitta? So in this context, we would say it's to cultivate relative bodhicitta. Then in terms of cultivating relative bodhicitta, remember that there are three elements, right? There is the element of love, the element of compassion. So metta and karuna. So loving kindness and compassion directed at loving kindness and compassion radiated towards all mother sentient beings. So that's then simply loving kindness and compassion without understanding the true causes of happiness and suffering, without understanding the true causes of happiness and suffering, is insufficient. Because even if you have a lot of love and compassion, if you don't understand, where suffering comes from and how to put an end to suffering, then all your efforts that you put in out of love and compassion for sentient beings, all the efforts that you put in to try to help sentient beings will not amount to much at all. You might be able to help them alleviate their difficulties and suffering in the very short term. But unless they are helped towards freedom from causes of suffering, then suffering will continue. Unless they are helped to achieving the causes of happiness, then whatever temporary happiness that even if we have the ability to give them, it will only be temporary. So the third element in relative bodhicitta is sometimes also called bodhicitta. And what it means there is to then make the resolve to become Buddha ourselves in order to be able to guide others to becoming Buddhas. That is the quickest, swiftest way to overcome this problem of the suffering of ourselves and the suffering of others. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of understanding, having this understanding. I think too often we go for the more general explanation of bodhicitta, and we simply just think, oh, compassion is bodhicitta. Compassion is a very important element in bodhicitta, just as love is a very important element in bodhicitta. But love itself, compassion itself, no matter how broad, how wide, how great, doesn't make it bodhicitta yet. There has to be the understanding. In a way, you could say love and compassion is the emotive side of this mind, whereas the understanding side is the cognitive side. It's the cognitive side of this mind, which is to cognitively understand with clarity what are the true causes of suffering and what are the true causes of happiness, what to abandon and what to adopt. And so again, the Bodhisattva vow is not a vow to postpone or delay our enlightenment. You will see that written a lot out there in various books, on internet. You will see that. Or it's to postpone enlightenment. If there is any good, I mean, if you just think a little bit about it, like what is the good of postponing your own enlightenment? All right? Postponing awakening. So translate that to another thing is prolong the, if you use the metaphor for Buddhahood as awakening, waking up, then to postpone enlightenment means what? To postpone awakening is to continue in
sorrow, suffering.
Well, more literally, to awaken. Then to postpone awakening is to
stay asleep.
Yes, stay asleep longer. What is the use of staying asleep longer? You cannot help yourself. You cannot help other people. Right? So even though, there is, for sure, yes, there are expressions in the sutras that say, oh, so-and-so bodhisattva is postponing their awakening. There we need to understand they're not saying literally that these bodhisattvas are saying, oh, let me, keep a few kleshas around so that I can continue to enjoy this sleep, this dream. There it is talking about, even if you know that when you become Buddha, you will arrive at a state that you are free from suffering yourself. For sure. If you're Buddha, for sure yourself is free from suffering. Yeah. But even if someone promises you and say, hey, you can become a Buddha like that, ASAP. But in becoming Buddha, ASAP, you have to give up benefiting beings. If such a situation arises, then you have to say, no, even if I could become awakened and therefore be free from suffering, but if it comes at the price, at the cost of benefiting beings, then I shall not do it. Yeah, so it's expressing the great determination. It's expressing the willingness to take on suffering for the sake of others. When expressions such as, so-and-so bodhisattva is delaying his awakening. It cannot mean that so-and-so bodhisattva is continuing to be stuck in the dream. What it means is so-and-so bodhisattva is so committed to benefiting beings that if benefiting beings is sacrificed so that he himself can, be free from suffering, then he or she, as a bodhisattva, will say no. So I've mentioned, right, in the sutras, in the commentaries, they talk about the three types of bodhisattva, right? The king-like type of bodhisattva, the boatman-like bodhisattva, and the shepherd-like bodhisattva. The king-like bodhisattva is the one that says, I shall assume the position of a king before I greatly benefit my kingdom. The second one is the boat-like bodhisattva, which is to say, like a boatman that ferries passengers across to the other shore, you will be on the journey across this ocean and arrive at the other shore all at the same time. Then the third one, the shepherd-like bodhisattva, is the kind of bodhisattva that says, like a shepherd that will not go to rest until all his flock is back and safely back in their pen and safely fed and enough water, then the shepherd goes to rest. So those cases in the sutras where it says, bodhisattvas will not rest until all beings have arrived at the state of resting, again, it is not literally saying that bodhisattvas should delay their awakening. There, the shepherd-like bodhisattva model is referring to how a bodhisattva needs to have that kind of love and concern for his sheep, his disciples, his all sentient beings. That a bodhisattva needs to have that kind of resolve, or even like the resolve of a parent, no matter how tired, the parents will make sure that the children are fed and washed and safely asleep before parents will retire. And so a bodhisattva needs to have that kind of care for sentient beings. Then in terms of how it actually happens, meaning it as in the road to enlightenment, how it actually happens, then it happens in the king-like example. It happens in the king-like example, as in, you need to strive to achieve the full and complete state of a Buddha, of a king, of an emperor, and have complete freedom, have complete ability, have complete mastery in order to truly benefit beings. So in our bodhicitta prayer, you say, swiftly may I achieve Buddhahood. Right? May I swiftly, may I quickly, may I rapidly. It doesn't say, may I slowly. It doesn't say, may I not get there. May others get there first. Because there is no time to waste. The longer we are asleep, the longer other sentient beings have to suffer. Not to mention our own suffering. The longer we are caught up in the dream, the longer we're going to be confused. We're going to be deceived. So swiftly, rapidly, quickly, rocket speed, may I achieve the state of Buddha. That's how. That's in terms of how it actually happens. Then the middle one, the boatman-like attitude, is good to keep with us, especially when we are progressing along, in order to not misapply the king-like bodhisattva example. How do you misapply the king-like bodhisattva example? You could misapply it when you are so focused on, oh, I need to get enlightened first. I need to get enlightened first. Then you say, I cannot help anyone right now because I have no ability. In case you thought like that, then you should remember, but like a boatman, even though I'm not at the other shore yet, I can still, navigate and paddle with the others because at least I'm a boatman. Whereas my passengers don't know what to do with this boat. They don't know how to operate this boat. So in terms of that, so in a way, so I'm a teacher, I'm teaching you all the Dharma. So in a way, I'm thinking more in terms of the boatman example. I know a little bit more about this boat. I know a little bit more about this ocean. I know a little bit more about where we're going. But we are in the same boat. We're in this together. So in terms of kind of the attitude, in order to not become too shepherd-like or too king-like in the wrong way, then there is the boatman example given. That, you have to think, we're all in the same boat. But I have a responsibility because I'm the captain. I'm the boatman. I know how to operate this. So this is how, right? The three types of bodhisattvas I'm not talking about. The three types of bodhisattvas, right? They're not talking about like three possibilities. You choose this one or that one. So first, cultivate bodhicitta. That's the first. Then, visualize your body, your form, as the idam deity. So visualize here also has a sense of to experience. It's not just a mental image, oh, somehow you transform. You look at your own picture, photo, and then you quickly look at the picture of your idam. You look at yourself, you look at idam, look at yourself, look at idam. Oh, now become idam. It's not visualized in that sense. Visualize here has a sense of like really try to experience how this body is idam. See, interestingly, the expression is always this, not always, the expression is often this body is idam. And if you are really, like know Buddhist teachings, you might say, hey, how come it doesn't say, think of your mind as idam? Why does it say think of body as idam? And here I think there is something about Vajrayana that pays attention to body. In ways that non-Vajrayana teachings emphasize a lot on mind. Yes, of course, in the end, mind. Mind is the key. So we talk about mind training, Lojong. Dhammapada Buddha talks about the mind decides everything. Happiness and suffering takes place in the mind. But there is something about Vajrayana that sees the value of working with body. So when it comes to deity, when it comes to idam practice, often it says, think of your body, think of your form as exactly the same as your deity. Likewise, right, there's that famous Vajra statement where Jigten Sumgön says, when you wander in samsara, it's the body that wanders, not the mind. Which is actually very, right, we look at that statement already, in a way very provocative, also like, almost like, what? That's not right, that's wrong. Yes, intellectually, right, it's wrong, so to say. Right? But how we experience samsara is really based on having a body. The vehicle for experiencing samsara is the body, not really the mind. So again, objectively, it's the mind, of course. Subjectively, how we experience it, it's experienced via, through body. And part of body is sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and even feelings. Because feelings arise based on sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And that is a matter of body. So here, the method in Vajrayana is to experience your body as idam, to visualize your body as idam. Oh, as we get older and older, it seems harder and harder to think, oh, this body is idam. Then we have pains, we have aches, Then even we have disease, eating away the body. Yes, from one perspective, that is what's going on. But especially if we really train with Vajrayana, even as the body is being eaten away by whatever it is that is eating away the body, you still is able to experience this body is idam. This does not happen mysteriously or magically. This happens through training now. As I've said, like Milarepa, for example, from ancient example, he never had it easy. In fact, maybe the easiest part of his life was when he was a child and late teen. In a way, when his father was still alive. Because it seems like he came from a relatively stable and well-to-do family. And then the story says after his father died, then his uncle and aunt, swallowed his inheritance and then reduced him and his mother and sister into servitude, right? So in a way, his best time in his life, what he wore, what he ate, what he slept in, and all of that was early in his life. Then later in his life, even after he became a Dharma practitioner, a disciple of Milarepa, a great master, he never had what we would call an easy life, even as a great practitioner. He would go into town with his disciple, one or two or a few, and cannot get food. But he was never really disturbed by that. Sometimes you even get a sense that he's annoyed by it, but he quickly catches himself. And then he understands, this is just the way things are. But there Milarepa certainly saw his own form as idam, and therefore able to transform suffering. But us, with everything, compared to Milarepa, oh my God, this is like a palace. Now, all of us are living in palaces, and yet we don't experience the idam in the palace because we get caught up in the opposite view. Some of the great masters of present times, they have bodily disease. One of the great masters of Gamakagyu passed away maybe 10 years ago, Tenga Rinpoche, he was diabetic. So towards the end, both his legs were amputated and he lost his sight, Very famously, I repeated this, I think at his 80th birthday or something like that, he said to one of his close disciples, he said, due to the blessings of the gurus, he said, in this lifetime, I've never had a real obstacle You're like, oh my God. Losing one leg, then the other leg, then one eye, then the other eye. Those are not obstacles. Not according to his experience. You know? Have to leave homeland, exiled from homeland, lost home, lost land, lost family, lost monastery, lost, lots of friends from the monastery. He said, no, never experienced a real obstacle. That is when, Tengah Rinpoche revealed like his inner experience, which his inner experience is idam. So visualize your body as the idam deity. Then meditate on the sublime guru upon the crown of your head. So in our concise practice, right? Avalokiteshvara as idam. Above is Amitabha, the sublime guru. So this is the third aspect of the fivefold Mahamudra, which is to always remember the guru, the guide. Now in this particular teaching, it elaborates on one method of meditating on the guru, not forgetting the guru. But there's an interesting twist here. This is a lojong way of training, Guru Yoga. This is sort of like a lojong Guru Yoga, you can call it that. So it's not the usual Guru Yoga devotion, the usual way. This is like the lojong way. Why? Look at the next section. It says, next, meditate on obstructors and obstacles as being your own root guru. So, if we have the confidence, if we have the devotion to how the guru is always there to guide us. The guru is the Buddha mind. Temporarily, externally, that Buddha mind appears in the form of individual teachers who show us the way, who guide us, who inspire us, people that we know personally and people that we only see from afar. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, all these gurus who inspire us from afar, those gurus who teach us in person, those gurus that we can watch on YouTube, on Facebook, right? So all those are instances of Buddha mind appearing externally. But Buddha mind is neither external nor internal. Buddha mind is all-pervasive. Because we are not able to see so easily the all-pervasive nature of this Buddha mind, then we train by visualizing Guru above our head. But now, in the lojong way, Kyobpa Jiten Sumgun is saying, now, if you take seriously that the Guru is always guiding us, then when obstacles, when difficulties, when problems arise, recognize them. Meditate. Meditate here, the Tibetan word is gom, which means to cultivate, which means to develop, which also means to get familiar with. Familiarize yourself. Change your mind so that you can see obstacles and problems and obstructors as being your own root guru. Often, understandably, we want to do prayers to remove obstacles. Remove obstacles, remove obstacles. The relative way of removing obstacles is as we think, the way we think. Don't come, don't come, don't come. But you also have to remember there's karma, Why obstacles come is the ripening of karma. So temporarily you might be able to hold back the ripening of karma, but ultimately, if those seeds that is producing the karma is not burnt, right? It's not destroyed, eventually they will come. And as I said, and when they come, even Mahakala, the great protector, has to run. When the karmic winds blow, even Mahakala has to run. So the relative way of removing obstacles may be temporarily, right? Just like we can find a friend to come help us, help us out when we are having some difficulties, moving around, or emotionally, feeling needing a little bit of support. Yes, of course, we can have friends, we can have people, but ultimately, right, the true removal of obstacles is to do this, to see obstacles, to see difficulties as being our own root guru. To see our turmoils as the guru. Now the guru has turned up. Now the guru has turned up in a different form. So the difficulties, the heartaches, the frustration, or even just simply feeling not motivated, even that, you're like, now the guru is showing up. Yeah. It cannot be that we only practice Dharma when things are going well, which is what a lot of us do, because for a lot of us, Dharma practice is part of our identity of being different. And maybe it's not so much the Asians among us, because Buddhism is like grandma stuff, But in the West, it's like hip, I'm not like my grandma, I believe much more sophisticated things. So be careful, that your Dharma practice is not just your way of being different, your way of pissing other people off, your way to stick it to your family. Then you only practice Dharma when things go well. When things don't go well, when your self-image is threatened, then you're like, oh, Dharma doesn't work, No, Dharma, even when you're feeling like, I'm not motivated. Oh, God, I don't want to go to class. I don't want to do practice. If we're able to see that, oh, that is the guru turning up. Now, it doesn't mean that once you see that, oh, it's the guru turning up, suddenly you're like, okay, I'm going to practice. No. That's just being naive, Maybe it won't. Maybe there will be days, months, or weeks, weeks or months you don't want to do any Dharma practice. At least formal things. You don't want to listen to the teachings. You don't want to chant. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to fill your water bowls, even. And then more guilt is building, all of that, right? Even in the midst of all of that, do you know how to practice or not? If you know how to practice, even that you can recognize. This is the guru showing, illuminating the situation. So even being uninspired, if you know how to relate to it, if you know what to do with it, even that as being the root guru. Then he says, if you remain undistracted in this state, whatever obstructors or obstacles there may be will certainly be transformed into the non-dual state, which is the birthless, luminous nature of your mind. Just like snow falling onto a lake. So when snowflakes fall onto a lake, meaning the minute the flake touches the surface, immediately gone. So all these changing conditions, snow, blizzard, rain, hail, frozen rain, big drops of rain, small drops of rain, the minute it touches the lake, every single one of them dissolve. Happiness, suffering, being inspired, being uninspired, very motivated, slightly motivated, not motivated at all these feelings, all these experiences that arise, If we remain undistracted in the state of recognizing all appearances, all phenomena, all situations as the turning up of the Guru, then it will be transformed into the non-dual state. The non-duality of like and don't like, good and bad, desirable, undesirable, progressing, regressing, all of that is settled. And this non-dual state is the birthless, luminous nature of your mind. Birthless is referring to the emptiness aspect of the mind. Luminous is referring to the knowing aspect of the mind. The mind has these two aspects. It's empty, but yet it has the capacity to know, that which knows. Rikpa, knowing. So the mind is non-dual also in the non-duality of emptiness and luminous. So if we remain in this state, as a technique, visualize Guru sitting above your crown. But as a direct application of that, so sometimes, we get too focused on the technique. Oh, Guru, then you have all kinds of questions, I get it, but you have to learn over time, what are important to ask, what are just, no time to go figure it all out, right? Questions like, oh, that Guru, this high, like one hand or one arm's length, or facing this way or facing that way, or bigger than you or smaller than you, Yeah, I understand, like we think, if we can get all the technical details down, we are good. Now, Jigten Sumgön's way is like, no, initially just develop an understanding, an appreciation, a heartfelt. Then as you progress along, as it says, more and more elaborate details can be introduced. And you can actually see the profundity of the mind when you see all the hair-splitting details. But now at the beginning, you have no capacity to do that. And don't get misled by those types of questions. More we have to develop. What does this mean? Guru sitting above the head. If Guru is sitting above the head, then in that sense, whatever we habitually label as good and bad that turns up because the Guru has allowed it, so to say, poetically, right? Turns up because the Guru says, okay, now, train with the monkeys. Oh, done with the monkeys. Now train with the tigers. Oh, done with the tigers. Now train with the dogs. It's the Guru calling all of this forth for us to be able to train. If you remain undistracted in this state, whatever obstructors and obstacles there may be will certainly be transformed into the non-dual state, the birthless, luminous state of your mind, just like snow falling onto a lake. Through the blessings of Jigten Sumgön. So here very explicitly, this is what I mean, this teaching, even though it's part of Jigten Sumgön's collected works, collected teachings, but clearly a disciple is reporting this. So the disciple, through the blessings of Jigten Sumgön. So probably when Jigten Sumgön said these words to someone, he would say, through the blessings of your Guru. So the scribe that wrote this, fill in, rather than just through the blessings of your Guru, he directly wrote, through the blessings of Jigten Sumgön. The point is not, oh, is it Jigten Sumgön? Is it Kyobpa? Is it Milarepa? The point is the blessings of the Guru. Through the blessings of the Guru, trust in bodhicitta will grow. So when we are able to see that all obstacles, hindrances, difficulties, problems, sufferings that arise is the Guru, then through that we will be blessed. And when we are blessed, what happens? Oh, not that you look better, not that you feel better, not that people will like you better, but when you're blessed, then your trust in bodhicitta will grow. You will be inspired, you will be motivated to continuously train in the two bodhicittas. While confidence in your mind arises, so trusting in bodhicitta in the end is no different than trusting in your mind. Not the confused mind, of course, but the Buddha mind. While confidence in your mind arises with the unity of appearances and mind manifesting. Meaning you will recognize that what the mind perceives and the mind that does the perceiving, they are interdependent. That what we experience in the end is what we experience. You're like, no, that person really doesn't like me. That is your experience. That is your projection. Oh, the person really likes me. Oh man, Or sometimes, oh, the person really likes me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, whether it's the person really likes me. Ooh, or oh, the person really likes me. It's our experience. Your experience. Your projection. So the more we are able to see, like what we experience, appearances, and the mind interdependently give rise to things, then confidence in this mind arises. If there is arising, whatever arises is the accumulation of merit. So now it's talking about the two accumulations. In order to be Buddha, we have to continuously gather merit and gather wisdom. The accumulation, the gathering of merit. So here it's very profound, very interesting. It says, if there is arising, meaning whenever there are experiences, which is all the time, but now we relate to experiences differently now. Whenever there is experience arising, whenever we see something, we taste something, we touch something, that's the meaning of arising. Then whatever arises becomes the gathering of merit. How can that be? How can that be? That can be because we apply the Dharma so that what we see with discernment, we see with understanding. So we see all forms as deity. We see all, forms as deity. We smell all smells as liberated, as the smell of incense, of offerings. So sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, it's all transformed. So that then, at that point, if there's an experience, if there's a sense experience going on, that becomes the accumulation, the gathering of merit. If nothing arises, then it is the unarisen accumulation of wisdom. And if there is no appearance arising, then in the midst of that, this is the accumulation of wisdom. You see the empty nature of everything. And so Even though right now nothing is arising, that not arising of anything is the gathering of wisdom. When both of these come together, they form a unity. What a great sense of ease with realization as such. When you truly are able to do these two, then we don't need contrived practices to gather merit, contrived practices to gather wisdom. Until this state actually becomes more and more familiar, then we have to rely on contrived. Contrived is not always bad, because until we are Buddhists, everything is contrived. Then the matter there is it skillful contrivance or unskillful contrivance? Unskillful contrivance leads to suffering. Skillful contrivance leads to freedom from suffering. So here, basically it's saying, when your state of mind can be at ease, your heart can be at ease. When you have experiences, even experiences that you label as painful, disappointment, feeling trapped, feeling lost. If you recognize that, and then it becomes an accumulation of merit. If you understand. And then when you find that, it's not, when you find that it's not arising, then also in that moment you recognize, then it's the accumulation of wisdom. And when these two come together, when they become non-dual, as in when you're able to experience them uninterruptedly, then it says, what a great sense of ease with realization, as this kind of realization, with this kind of attainment. If one acts, everything that is done becomes skillful means. If one acts not, there's nothing to be done. All is spontaneously present. So here, he's treating all these pairs, right? To do is the doing of merit. To not do is the gathering of wisdom. If one acts, everything that is done becomes skillful means. Again, this doesn't mean, right? Now hunting is skillful means. Stealing is skillful means. No, it's saying that when you have purified your actions and your mind to such a degree, right, that nothing you do will cause harm to self or other anymore, then at that point, everything that you do, becomes for the benefit of others, which is what it means by becomes skillful means. There is a famous saying by Confucius, he said something like, at 15, I set my heart to learning. At the age of 15, he says, I set my heart on learning. At 30, something like, I don't remember exactly, but something like at 30, I begin to understand, what the sages have taught. Then he said at 45, I'm willing to go along with it. So very modest, but also very, I think, hopeful for us, that this process is slow and steady. Yeah. Okay. So Leonard found the quote. Yeah. At 15, I set my heart upon learning. At 30, I have planted my feet firm upon the ground. So at 30, he knows already, like what the sages have taught. So his feet are firm. He's no longer so easily kind of blown away by situations. At 40, I no longer suffered from perplexities. Perplexities means like, when things don't go well, you don't become bewildered because he not only is he standing firm, but even when doubts about what the sages have taught him, there's no more doubt. At 50, I knew what were the biddings of heaven, meaning like it's poetic, in their context. Heaven is not a place. It's not a place you go to. Heaven is basically like what I guess in the West we would say God. So he says, I know what God wants me to do. That means he's no longer going against, and no longer like, why? Right? I know the bidding. At 60, I heard them with a docile ear. So at 50, you might know what heaven has ordained, has planned for you, so to say, but doesn't mean, you agree, It took him another 10 years before it's like, yes, okay, I agree. At 70, I could follow the dictates of my heart. For by then, whatever I desired no longer overstepped the boundaries of what is right and what is wrong. And so here when it says, everything that you do becomes skillful means. Again, it doesn't happen like, mysteriously, magically. It doesn't happen like right now you say, oh, I'm going to think of everything I do as benefiting beings. And then meanwhile, you're doing things that are harming beings. It doesn't work. When both of these come together, it is non-dual great bliss. What a sense of ease with the body as such. So doing is, related to body. So now body is settled. The previous one, if there's arising, then it's the accumulation of merit. When there's non-arising accumulation of wisdom, that pertains to mind. And this next one, if I act, everything that is done becomes skillful means. If I don't act, there's nothing to be done. All is spontaneously present. And this has to do with settling the body. So the first one is the settling of the mind. This one is the settling of the body. Next one, if one speaks, the benefit of self and other are accomplished. If one speaks not, it is beyond words, thoughts, and description. Whatever one does, it is the immutable, the unchanging state. What a great sense of ease with speech as such. Now settling speech, body, speech, and mind settled, at ease. And so we train so that, all our speech is done in a way that helps, that is beneficial to self and other. So speak when necessary, and when not speaking, you know that, you recognize that Buddha state is in fact beyond all speech, beyond all expressions. So do not speak of this to others, but take these secret words of the Kusulu. Kusulu is in contrast to Pandita. Pandita are like the great scholars. Kusulu is the simple practitioner. More literally, it's sort of like a beggar. But here, not literally talking about beggars, but talking about quote-unquote simple practitioner rather than the great scholars. So he says, do not speak of this to others, but take these secret words of the Kusulu and put them into your experience. Don't go about, talking about this. This is nothing so fancy. Scholars, those who are learned, are not interested. And those who are not learned, they cannot appreciate. So no need to talk about this. Instead, once you have received this guidance, this instruction, you put them into your own experience, which in English we translate to practice. Nyam len, in Tibetan. Nyam, experience. Len, take them into your own experience. So in other words, it's saying, don't go tell other people this, because they are meant for you to apply to your own self. You should do that. Without letting the exalted bodies of all Buddhas of the 3 times be confined to the realm of words and writing with general and specific characteristics, I bow at the feet of the incomparable Guru. When the protector of beings, glorious Atisha, was defeating the non-Buddhist heretics, he offered mandalas of earth and supplication to the mother of the victors, the noble lady Tara. And the knowledge to defeat the heretics arose in his heart. How amazing was it that he defeated the heretics? Heretics is a literal translation. It's talking about those with wrong view. So Atisha was a great master before he even came to Tibet, in India. He was able to clarify these wrong views. Not general wrong views, but there's the wrong views that are principled, that means wrong philosophical understanding. Reason out, but wrong reasoning, And I said there are 2 types of wrong views. One is more naturally what we pick up. Second is we systematically pick up. So we think, I'm a socialist, or I'm a capitalist, I'm a fatalist, I'm a sophist. All those are philosophical views that are misguided. So here it says, when Atisha was faced with the task of having to defeat, having to clarify, right, the confusion of these types, what did he do? Interestingly here it says, what he did was he offered mandalas of earth and supplication to the mother of the victors, the noble lady Tara. And in doing so, he knew how to deal with these quote-unquote heretics. Then question, what was the use of offering the mandalas of earth to the noble lady Tara? Mandalas of earth, probably it means, Atisha just grabbed, right, some dirt from the ground and put it in his hands. We put rice, we put flower petals, when we do this. So I think this is referring to a situation where Atisha, did not have, all these ritual things. But even simply picking up some earth and putting on his hands, and he offered with complete devotion to Tara. Scatter dirt. So here, rhetorical question. What was the use of offering the mandalas of earth to the noble lady Tara? Is the question that is posed to us. As in, ask yourself that question. How true. Piercing the heart of Dharma just once will suffice. It is of no use to speak at length. So my son, put this into practice, O yogi. This is almost a very much in the style of like a koan. Jiten Simgun doesn't give the answer, doesn't explain why. He says, you think about it. You think about it. It almost feels like there are 2 teachings here, The first one ended with like settle body, speech, and mind, right? What a great sense of ease with speech as such. Do not speak of this to the others, but take these secret words of the Kusulu and put them into your experience. Without letting the exalted bodies of all Buddhas of the three times be confined to the realm of words and writing, with general and specific characteristics, I bow at the feet of the incomparable Guru. It feels as if that first teaching ended there. Then the second teaching is when the protector of beings, glorious Atisha, was defeating the non-Buddhists. That just feels like a second teaching. And I don't know enough at this point if indeed there were two teachings that kind of got put together under one title. But maybe we should entertain that it's actually one continuous teaching. So then the second part is actually very much related to the first part. And in a way, it's nice. It adds to kind of like the mystery. Like, oh, how are the two parts connected? Well, here it says, you think about it. So the first one is, again, I could offer something. Yeah, the first part is kind of more cognitively based, right? Kind of intellectual, kind of about understanding, which is understanding the non-duality of doing and not doing, of having arising or not arising, right? It's about like Mahamudra understanding. Then the second part, it's about emotive. With devotion, offer this to Lady Tara. Right? Now, this is not just about devotion either. It's also about even grabbing a handful of dirt. That dirt becomes the mandala. And this is the power of the mind to transform our mundane experiences. So both devotion and understanding are brought together in this teaching that seems to be two separate teachings. No error either if it is taught as two separate teachings. And I think no error either that they are then together. Put this into practice. It's the bottom line, right? Put this into practice. So today, obviously, we're not doing Gongchik. I thought I should do something from the translations, just so you know that the translations are continuing. We are working on editing them, and we will share the ones that we are very confident, that there are no issues. There are many others. There are slight issues here and there of the translations that have been done. So I'm wanting to kind of have a chance to go over them with Khenchen Rinpoche and also another teacher, Khenpo Tenzin, to go over them a little bit more before we kind of make it more widely available. The project to create a book, a physical book containing these teachings, is still in the works. I am now Chinese New Year is coming up, and often businesses go on vacation in Malaysia. I want to check with the printing, but I will also check with Nepal. But of course, it's also New Year. Although this is not Nepali New Year, so Tibetan New Year, not so, businesses don't close that long. Nepali New Year, they can close for 1 week, 2 weeks. Tibetan New Year, maybe 3-4 days. But I want to find a good place to print an edition of book form of these teachings. So yeah, that's it for today. And we will be sending out more information on the 35 Buddhist practice and who has volunteered and who, yeah. So we will do that, yeah. Chanchu semchu rinpoche Magye banam ge gyurche ge ba nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du be war shu. Okay, goodbye. Good evening. Have a good sleep. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you. Adios.
Yeah.